Hello everyone. Say hello if you're watching the replay. And let's tag our friends or invite them, as it were. It's a little bit early for a lot of you, and for some of you it's perfect time. All right. Hi Angela. Hi Melissa. Hi Sarah. Hi Marla. How are you ladies doing this morning? It's a little early for me too. Hello Michelle. So Mondays, my mother-in-law, you guys know her, she's in here all the time. Kathy, Adeline hangs out with Kathy, and I don't have to go to the office. I don't have clients in the office on Mondays. So I have a little bit of time, and the idea, hi Amy, is to get some batching done, so videos and that kind of thing. I just have time like to do fun work, but non-patient. All right. Hi Bree. So we're going to talk about something that's really important. It kind of came up in another live stream over the weekend, and I think we all decided that it needed its own topic and its own day. And so a lot of times we aren't living to our fullest potential. We're not having the most pleasure and enjoying our life to the fullest, and in turn not having the greatest impact that we can have because of our capacity for bullshit. Because we're available for less than what it is that we desire. Hi Sherry. Hi Maddie. I was going to reach out to you today. I have to remember to send you a text message or a whatever message. Okay. I have all these alerts. Hi Kathy. Say hi to my noodle for me. Hi noodle. So how is this true in your life? Is this showing up? Is what I'm talking about, hey Mero, is what I'm talking about something that you notice in your life? Tell me how. Where are the spaces that you are aware and where it's evident that you take too much? She went back to sleep. Oh, sweet little thing. She's probably the sweetest when she's sleeping. That's not true. She's sweet when she cuddles too. I really am digging the owl over my shoulder, like a lot. I very much enjoy that. I just want to say that. I'm probably going to hang things up and get our background pretty again. So, some of the ways in which, how do we want to say this? Like, we're available for less than what we want. And so part of that is like how people treat us, our environment, how we treat ourselves, the way in which we're interacting with ourselves is going to be a hugely reflected to us with how everyone else is treating us, right? So give me some examples. Where are you available for less than what it is that you want? What are areas where it's kind of like, you know, those pants that fit you but they don't really fit you and they kind of dig into you but you wear them anyway? That's capacity for bullshit, because that right there is some bullshit. Your pants need to fit properly. I'm just saying. And I'm giving this example because it's one that was really evident for me. So I had these ideas. It's such a small thing, right? And we're going to get to bigger stuff, but it's a good example because it's a silly example and it's small, but it's had a huge impact in my life. And so I'm going to explain. How much do I want, or how do I want to explain? Okay, so I had a couple pairs of jeans. They're kind of old. They were getting like these runs across the front, and so that didn't work anymore. And then some of my other ones, they just weren't fitting well. They're like the low rise, and my body shape is different than it was before, and I am at my heaviest that I've ever been, not pregnant. And I love my body and I'm really comfortable with my body, but that didn't happen like immediately upon gaining the weight. It's not like, ooh, right? So I say all this because it's a common experience. And so I was available for less than comfort. I was available for less than pleasure and what feels good. It was like, well, it's just a little annoying that my pants don't fit, right? So I went and got amazing pants. Now I'm happy when I get dressed. So that's a small, silly example, but it really leads to everything. Like where in our life, yes, sometimes I have a hard time expressing or saying what I want and then I get frustrated. Yeah. So, ooh, yes. When you don't like how your coffee was made, but you don't want to stir the pot, so to speak, so you deal with it not being perfect for you. Yeah, exactly. And so there's so much. So the more examples you give, the more we're going to see like there's a lot of constructs and there's a lot of conditioning, societal conditioning around the specifics of what we're putting up with. But overall, there's this idea that number one, it's better just to make do, right? And to not make a fuss. Compliance is something that I've been thinking about a lot because I love you, mommy, in case you're watching. But I was a really compliant child. And so compliance is something, in my perspective, I'll say, right? And so what that does and how that is, and a lot of us are that way, you know, we want to please, we want to have the affirmation from outside sources. Hi, Allison. And so we are, we're conditioned. We condition our behavior. And so a lot of that is not wanting to stir the pot and just making do because of a million different reasons. So each of us is going to be different, but it all comes down to we can break free of that. Okay. Angela says, in my personal life, I have a tendency to first think of what others close to me need or want without asking myself what I need or want. Yes. It becomes like this root thing. Like it becomes something where we're not even neglecting ourselves because it's not even within our capacity to think about what we want first. It's just a normal thing. Like, okay, so what needs to get done? What do people need? Like, not how am I feeling? And so that's probably one of the best ways to reduce that bullshit. And we're going to do an exercise at the end where we're solidifying some boundaries, where we're creating like a sift, like, you know, when you're sifting flour, to sift out the bullshit. And then we're going to increase our capacity to receive. So we're going to do that at the end. But I just want to chat a little bit because I think it's important for us to talk about these things so we can start to recognize it in our life and to realize that it actually benefits ourselves and everyone around us to start to actually tune into what it is that we desire, and then just it is what it is. Does that make sense? Okay, and in fact, sometimes when I ask myself what I need or want, I draw a blank because I am so used to being the caretaker. So what's your go-to? So I'm glad you're sharing that because I think a lot of people have that. So Angela's saying she draws a blank because she's in the caretaker role. So like, get it real simple. Like, what do I want to feel? You know, I find that a lot of people who are like in that caretaker role, really what we desire is to be taken care of. And so because no one is coming and swooping in like we swoop in, then there's all of this other nonsense that starts happening. Hey, Dan. around what we deserve and what we can have and all this stuff, and then this resentment builds. It becomes this real crazy weird thing. And everybody has different flavors of it, of course, because there's individual conditioning and our own stuff and all of that. But as a blanket statement, right, of talking about it for all of us, I find one of my patterns is that I really, really deeply enjoy being taken care of. But I set it up so that I can't be. And so I'll reject subtle ways in which people who love me want to take care of me. And so that's something that I've had to really shift in noticing that people, number one, get to take care of me. Number two, I get to take care of myself. And number three, it gets to look different, And asking, like, I have really plainly at this point, I've said, like, hey, so it's a day where I need to be taken care of. I need for you to focus on me. And this is particularly in my romantic partnership. But this can be anywhere, and I think even with our children, this is something that is so taboo, this idea of showing our kids that, okay, so as a parent, I need to have this focus on me. And explaining around it, and this isn't, and really, does that make sense to everybody? All right, let's see what everyone's saying. I'm going to have a bite of my food because I'm really hungry. This is awesome. Keep sharing because this is really helpful for everyone. I love that. So what Jody's saying is that her daughter is bold, more bold than compliant. Yeah, mine is too. But I see little pieces where she tries to be. It's really weird and interesting. So Jody's saying her daughter's more bold than compliant. She can feel her knee-jerk reaction wants to tell her that that's not okay. Yeah, lucky I think about it and can see why would it not be okay to say and ask for what you want and how. She's not rude when she asks, just honest. Yeah. So I think that that's the most important part, because we have these amazing children that are coming up. And I think particularly girls are a little bit more noticeable in this particular area because boys have stereotypically been allowed to be more bold. What I do notice with boys, again, stereotypically across the board, is that boys now coming up, because parents are different, is that both. There's more integration of the masculine and feminine energies, more of those yin and yang energies. And I'm not talking about masculine, feminine in male, female. I'm talking about the principles, the energetic principles, right? And so, oh, that's weird. I'm finding that there's a lot more balance. And because there's more balance, we're noticing things like girls being more bold and boys being more connected to themselves, and noticing the counterbalance of what their stereotypical gender role is. Does that make sense? So we're noticing it more. And then I'm finding also, like, with the raising daughters, we're kind of like raising ourselves. I think that's a book. I want to say that that's a book. Who knows? Anyway, with raising daughters, like, we're raising ourselves also, because we have to do things like what Jody's talking about, is recognizing, hang on a second. Like, especially when we're living the life like this, like being more connected and wanting to be done with the bullshit and wanting to bring more pleasure in and wanting to serve more, and all of this happening at once, is that noticing, well, then our daughters get to do it too. Our sons get to do this too. And what does that look like? And so I talk to you guys about this often because Adeline and I are in an active journey of this, of, and now she says, you get to have what you desire. And she's like, can I tell you what I desire? Because we don't talk about want, right? And she's picked up on it really quickly as I shifted, and she sees and knows the difference. And now what we're working on, like I said the other day, is is that being in community with our desires, which is, I think that that's the interesting place we are in society as a whole, is as we're evolving, as we're opening our consciousness, how does that get to all play out? Does it make sense? And how do my desires serve somebody else? Because I can tell you that they do, right? Okay, let's see where everybody is. Hi, Becky. Where would struggling to follow your soul's desire to live your authentic self rather than an ego self that is full of past stuff or pain fit into this topic? Is that related to this or something else? Yes. So I like to think about things differently in a way. So when I think about soul self and some of the human stuff, I think about my human. And so the reason why I think about the human rather than the ego is because there's a lot of misunderstanding around the ego, and there's, Freud's principles of ego, like all these different ways in which ego is thought of, and it's different than the way now we colloquially speak of it. And so and then in Buddhism, the way they talk about it, there's just a lot of different ways. And so for the sake of simplicity, and also for how I experience this and how I work with this and utilize this in my own life, and you guys hear me talk about this, like there's human Alexis, right? And it's not like this personality split thing, is this awareness. So again, the reason why the human part rather than just ego is that the human is also dictated by biological processes that are occurring. Okay, so there's a hormonal thing that's happening, all sorts of things that are happening. And so that's really important to remember, that sometimes it's really easy to think, oh, that's my ego. It's like, well, no, it's millennia of conditioning around being safe. And so your endocrine system's going off like crazy. Of course you're reacting that way. So what we need to go back and look at is how to help you feel more safe so we don't have that cascade. Does that make sense? So what I want to say for sure is super important with all of the topics that I talk about. Take it with where you are, and don't push yourself or rush yourself to be somewhere you are not. Everywhere you are is absolutely perfect in the process, and it's perfect for you and your evolutionary process, okay? I know it's really easy, especially within the spiritual space, to get into this nonsense of like, oh, well, that must be better because I'm not there. And no, it's all, use it as an example. Think of it like like Montessori classrooms, and where there's different age students are put together so that they can help each other. So there's children who are the youngest, there's children who are in the middle, and then there's children that are older, and they're all there for a reason, and they're all helping each other in a different capacity and to give each other something. That's very much how we are in our spiritual evolutionary process. Okay, so it's super important to remember that. And then yes, I do think it's related, because we're not just talking about putting up with bullshit from other people. We're talking about putting up with bullshit for ourselves. So when our capacity for nonsense is high, and when we're able to sit with the pants that don't feel good, that's when we're able to have more of that old pain and that old suffering. Something that's a useful process is when you still have old stuff coming up. What does this have to teach me? Why is this still present? And journaling it out, and just because writing is helpful. What is this doing? How does this serve me? The answer might be that it's not, but there might be something there. There could be something that's being hidden by all that pain. There could be something that's hidden by all this spiritual community construct around like, oh, love and light and all that stuff. And it's like, no, there's something actually there. There's a reason why you're still replaying it. And there might not be, but you need to explore that more deeply. Okay, let's see. So, wow, what a powerful statement. Angela, are you talking about the taking care of yourself part, or asking for assistance? I think. Yes, Michelle. Yes, I constantly turn down help when people offer. Starting to notice that. Starting to notice that. And like, sometimes we have learned and or actually have had in our life that people offer things so that they can have control over us. And so starting to be aware of that and starting to cultivate, like, no, I get to have solid, supportive assistance in my life. I get to be fully supported with love, and in a deeply loving and connected way. Okay. And so that's when it starts to shift, because absolutely, I'm going to say no to people who want something too. Like, if I know that there's a cost that doesn't feel good. See, I'm all for exchange. My dad says this all the time. So my dad says cost, cost, cost. Todo cuesta, todo cuesta. And I disagree. I disagree because the concept of cost, to me, like the energetics around that word, and probably the energy that I feel from him saying that, is different than an exchange. And one would say, and he says it's the same thing, and it's not the same thing. So I think it's important to look at, like, what is your exchange with people who are helping you, right? So Kathy helps me a lot in my life. She facilitates so much, but we have a really beautiful exchange. And what that exchange is love and support, you know? And so it doesn't mean like I have to go over and watch her dog for her because she watches my daughter, right? It's this, how do these things feel? Okay. Okay. I'm going to take a moment. Talk to me. Tell me the things. Yeah, mutual support. And mutual support doesn't always look the same way. You know, loving support doesn't always look the same way. Balance doesn't mean the same thing. So, like, to me, a balanced relationship is that everyone gets what they need when they need it. It doesn't mean that everyone is constantly giving the same amount at the same time. You know, I think it's perfect example, like within my own marriage, like a marriage isn't always like 50-50, 50-50, you know? It's sometimes 80-20, you know? Sometimes it's whatever in reverse. Sometimes it's 70-30, sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 40-60. And each person is getting what they need. So if you're in a period of time when a relationship is 80-20, but then you know that it always switches, that's balance to me, because each person is getting what they need and there's acknowledgement of that. And so honestly, our capacity to communicate or incapacity to communicate is what fucks us up. Our idea of putting ideas, well, making things mean things that they don't mean, that's what messes all of these things up. So, you know, once we're at a point where it's like, okay, like I'm aware, hey, Michelle, of what I'm available for and what I'm not available for. Where's my capacity for the nonsense? Again, the pants that don't fit. How long am I willing to have pants that don't fit? How willing am I to be for how long? Uncomfortable with what, right? And reducing that. Like, I get to notice immediately, take an assessment. How do I feel today? What feels good? What doesn't feel good? With this thing that doesn't feel good, what needs to happen? You know, do I need to call a person to help me clean the house? Do I need to go pay my bills because I'm not comfortable? Do I need to go, you know, put a program out? Do I need to go, you know, have a date night with my husband? Do I need to, you know what I mean? So sometimes it's not just changing our mind. Sometimes it's assessing what's going on with us, knowing what we want different, and asking for it, and or implementing and taking action. So that's the part that's really important. Because doing these exercises and doing all this stuff is great and beautiful, but if we don't do the back end of it, which is like the actual implementation of like, hey, those pants don't fit, I'm gonna go buy some pants, you know, that part's super important. Yeah, I think you might be right, Melissa. Melissa's saying she thinks that my dad is speaking of cost as equal to value. Melissa knows my dad and has had conversations with him. Yeah, there's so much there. I mean, we're not going to unpack that right now. We're interesting pair. Yes. No, I mean, yeah. Anyway. Yes. So Marla's saying the more that she shifts and changes, and what she means is the more Marla she is, the more her she is, the more true self she is, the more she leans into what feels right and true, the less tolerable she is of BS. And absolutely, that's true. Mm-hmm. And so what I want you to know really, 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 really clearly is that that is of high service. You know, like we're able, the more okay I am on all levels, the more I can serve, right? It just is what it is. And I know that absolutely to be true. And we have to start shifting these things. Okay. Speaking of pants. Okay. I don't know if that's no. I don't think that's necessarily true. So economy, I mean, what economy is at this moment in time, sure, but it's based on the principles of like universal principles, honestly, and that there's always an exchange of things. And so, and then when my dad talks about that, he's talking about spiritual concepts. He's not talking about, $1 equals the banana. He's talking about if you want good things, that costs something. Like, I mean, good things in your life, not like material things. But yes, there's an exchange, but it has to do, like we talked about that love concept, about that example with Adeline and Kathy watching Adeline, and how it doesn't mean I have to go watch her dog. It's like, what is that exchange, right? And I don't think that we need to realize the gifts, because just even connection is something, and we don't have to realize that, you know. Anyway, okay, but thank you for your comments. I appreciate you. That's a whole nother conversation, Sarah. So Sarah's saying that she works at a consignment store and it's made her more aware of sustainable clothing brands rather than fast fashion. But a certain brand of jeans fits better than the consignment brands. So what's interesting to me is that, to me, like a consignment store, it would be any brand. I mean, maybe your consignment store takes in certain things, but if you're consigning it, just means that somebody has utilized it before. It's been owned before. So that would mean even if the company who made a pair of jeans, if you're getting it through consignment, even if they don't have good practices, it's being utilized again. So now you've changed an bad practices company to something more sustainable. Anyway, that gets so complicated so quickly, and I think that consignment shopping is something that's a solution to not supporting. It gets complicated. But yes, I do agree. Like, you have to go with what feels good for you. I spent a lot more on these pants that I have, these new jeans that I have, than I probably ever have on jeans. But they're super comfortable and they feel amazing. And now every time I get dressed, like, I like how my body looks and I like how I feel in it. And the sass it gives me when I'm out and about or just around my house, like, that's important. It may seem silly, but you know, it's so funny that we're talking about this, because this morning I was thinking about how I really want to have a discussion around materialism and spirituality, because I think it's really important. And I think that, excuse me, oftentimes people think it's mutually exclusive, and that, you know, you can't be spiritual and also enjoy material things. Now, we are on a physical plane. We have these bodies. We're intended to enjoy these bodies and utilize them and care for them and love them, and also enjoy what we have, right? So that's my take. And I think it's something that needs to be talked about more. No, it wasn't a silly example at all. I think it was a great example. Yeah, it wasn't silly at all. It's just a totally different topic, like in terms of sustainability and how to make that work. And it's kind of like plasticware, so if you're using plasticware, it's not sustainable, it's not good for the environment. But if you're reusing plasticware, does that help it be less? Yeah, right. So it's looking, that's what I was talking about with that. It's not a silly example at all. Okay, Sherry, our reaction to calling someone else on their BS, calling someone else out on their BS, getting better for me, not becoming overwhelmed by saying, hey, that's not good for me. Yeah. Oh. Well, these aren't like my favorite. I have, I don't even know if you can see them. Anyway, I have 3. I really love the dark wash. They're so pretty. And they just like, they dress things up. These are like everyday kind of pants. Yes. So I love that you're saying that, Sherry, because that's really important too. When I'm talking about reducing our capacity for BS, and I'm talking about standing up for ourselves and being connected to ourselves, I am also saying be kind. So it doesn't mean, hey, you're an asshole, get out of here. Like, I'm not available for that. Okay, no, you're creating drama, and that's bullshit. So that's not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about that within ourselves. There should be, I really do feel that we do best as human beings when we communicate with each other in a kind fashion. We're a lot more likely to hear and understand each other when we speak in ways in which that is loving. Period. You can be firm and loving, you can be firm and kind, and I'm not talking about being nice, because nice is bullshit too. I'm talking about being kind, and kind is about all people involved. Being nice is about compliance and making things all sweet and like look good, and that's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about kindness, and kindness is going to be like awareness, next level. So once you start recognizing your own boundaries, your own stuff, your own, yes, I'm not available for that anymore. I'm only available to be treated with love. I'm only available to be treated with respect. I'm only available to have this amount of money in my bank account. I'm only available to have this kind of food. I'm only available to have awesome jeans. The next step is the communication part of that, right? It's not just like going through like a bull in a china shop. Have you all seen Ferdinand? He's actually in a china shop. It was so cute. Anyway, we don't want to do like that, because it doesn't really work, because you end up with a whole lot of broken porcelain, and it just doesn't work. And so that's a big part of this too, because otherwise we're just creating more bullshit under the guise of like, I have boundaries. Well, so we really need to be self-aware, and then aware of others, aware of how, and that's the part that's interesting. A lot of us who have a lot of that compliance as children, and perhaps still have some of it, is because we're aware of what the other person is feeling in a lot of different ways. Maybe we're not feeling it in our body. Maybe we're not knowing it. Maybe we're not using clairs. Maybe this isn't like amped up like it is for me and for a bunch of you. Maybe it's just information we notice through behavior, right? But it's utilizing that awareness to then go to the next level. So if you're noticing that somebody is uncomfortable, so I want to do something to help them, noticing that and like helping that evolve. Does that make sense? Oh my gosh, boundaries versus walls. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that what a lot of people go to is that, and I think it's interesting because there's a lot of ways to evolve, and they're not always healthy ways, right? And so a person who is really compliant, a person who puts up with a lot, who has a really low threshold or a really high threshold for bullshit, and really high threshold for pain and all those kinds of things, sometimes the next evolution of that is wall, right? And so if you can't get to me, you can't hurt me. God, I feel that. Yeah, if you can't get to me, you can't hurt me. And so it's an evolution, but it perhaps is not in the healthiest way, right? And so now you're talking about a person who is shutting off certain things, who's, I always think about semi-permeability. So when we're, yes, absolutely. Andrea likes to explain it to people that boundaries are flexible and fluid with people we're close with. Things we consider carefully. Walls are stay out. No one's getting through. Heart closed. Yeah, exactly. So I love semi-permeability. I do it like within my spiritual practice, within like emotional reconditioning, with on all that stuff. Semi-permeability, like we learned in science. Thanks for sharing that, Andrea. The semi-permeable membrane of a cell wall, like that helps the things that aren't supposed to come through, the things that are too big, too heavy, too whatever, aren't going to come through. And so that there's this mechanism of like that you set up within your own energetic and spiritual boundaries of like, you know, if someone means me harm, like, yeah, that's not going to get in, right? But allowing that yummy stuff, because what happens with walls is nothing gets through, including like that divine connection. And that's what happens to a lot of people, you know? Yeah. So Marla's saying one of our first talks, I said, to try putting up a gate instead of a wall. Yes. And so that's really, thanks for sharing that. It's really cool when people share the things that we do and work together. So absolutely, for someone who has all walls, it depends where you are. Sometimes you can't go from having all walls to just semi-permeability. Sometimes you can't go from all walls to be like, yeah, you can come, you know what I mean? So that's important to look at too, whether you're in a healer role. There's a lot of you who are facilitators on here right now. So if you're a facilitator, like this is something that you kind of know. I mean, we can't just take people from 0 to 60. And so putting that gate, you know, is a way in which to start changing things. Hi, Melissa. Allowing a gate, and even a gatekeeper, you can put in spiritual gatekeepers, energetic gatekeepers to allow that. And so it's a new way of like, so there's only one point of entry rather than semi-permeability is points of entry everywhere, which I think is a little bit more of an advanced thing for someone who's completely walled up, right? Anyway. Oh, yeah. So Sarah found this quote, walls keep everyone out, boundaries allow the right ones in. Yeah. Yep. Boundaries are for us too. A lot of times, you know, so anger is an expression of boundaries being crossed, but a lot of times we actually don't even know what our boundaries are. So, you know, we can get upset that somebody crossed our boundaries, but we never even indicated what they were. And so that's important to look at too. Like if somebody, yeah, let's talk about an individual in some relationship with you. If they are harming you, perceived harm, or either way, have you put up boundaries? Have you been clear about what matters to you? And so this process of putting up boundaries with people can be really interesting. And sometimes can be well received and sometimes not. I think, again, a big part of it is communication. We like to beat around the bush. We're afraid to say that compliance, all that nonsense that gets in our way of clear communication, you know? All right, I think we're going to wrap this up in a little while. What do we want to do next? I feel like we want to do an exercise of some kind. What do we want to do? So I'm seeing something come to mind, like actual canisters, like a canister that would hold junk, garbage. bullshit, all that stuff. Being able to empty it. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm glad it's been powerful. That's so good, Angela. See ya. So, yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. So, and then I'll also put the link for my Golden Bowl meditation, which is one to help tune into your capacity to receive. And so that exercise can be utilized in a lot of different ways. So we'll do this one to kind of check where we are. I like exercises where we get to like somatically go into our body and see where these things are and get a visual, because you're aware of how much nonsense you put up with, right? But what if you could see it all at once? What if you could see what you're available for and then alter it? Yeah, so I'm actually, I love that so much. So my brain tells me that everyone thinks the way I do, but they don't. So I'm actually not talking about a physical canister. I'm talking about doing a visualization to imagine our canister within our body, and how full it is or how empty it is, you know? How big is it? How small is it? That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So you don't have to, I mean, I actually wouldn't do that. And the reason why I wouldn't do that is because then we're focusing on how people are doing us wrong and all that kind of stuff, right? And we don't want to do that. What we want to do is be aware of our responsibility for it. So how available are we to it? Reduce that availability and then focus on the deliciousness. Because honestly, where you focus, sometimes we need to do the hard work. Sometimes we need to do that foundational kind of like, you know, and focus there to take care of business, but then you're done, you know? Yeah. So like I had my drain field changed a couple years, feels like a year ago at this point. And we dealt with it for a long time, not being okay. So while we were in the process of dealing with it, there was a lot of focus there. Once it was complete and it was finished, that focus was off there. I didn't have to worry about backups anymore. So I didn't need to worry about backups, because honestly, if I worry about backups, I'll probably get backups. So we're not going to do that. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad, Andrea. Andrea loves this combo on early Monday. Yep. It's nice and early for you, right? You're in Arizona? What part of Arizona do you live in? Oh, you don't have to say. Oh, we're in the group. We're not public. Okay. So, ooh, and next week, I think I'm going to do a talk about God and the goddess. So, yeah, the yin yang of spirituality and how we like looking. Oh my gosh, I was just there. And I had one night on my own. Okay, I'll have to remember that next time. So, let's see. I was exhausted though when I got there because of the time difference. Adeline painted my nails with piggy paint, and they're like totally, she did it yesterday, and it's like, I look at it every time I look at it. Yeah, anyway. Let's do a thing. I'm gonna have some water. Let's get into a nice comfortable position. We're gonna do like a hybrid. We're gonna look at this, and then we're also gonna EP it to kind of clear it out. All right, nice comfortable position. Take a nice deep breath. We're going to bring awareness to our physical body. With each breath, we're getting more and more relaxed. When we're ready, we're going to notice within our body where our meter is for the things that we don't want. Where is our bullshit meter? Where is how available we are for things that we don't desire, for putting other people first, for not being clear about what we need? Where is this meter in our body? Do a gentle scan from the top of your head and gently bring your awareness down your body. Wherever your awareness stops, so you can't move forward, that's where it likely is. So just gently do this. You may see, you may feel, nothing might happen. Remember, this is something that you can do over and over, and there is no getting it right, okay? Once you get a clear understanding of where it is, I want you to imagine like a little version of you, like in Magic Schoolhouse, going down in there. And it's almost like an electrical panel. And you're going to see a meter. In big bold letters. BS meter. What am I available for? What garbage am I available for? And see what percentage it's filled to. Remember to look at this without judgment, just awareness. This is merely a diagnostic. It gives us information. Take a nice deep breath. So now we're going to do an expansion principle transmission. Put your hand on your heart to receive, and if you would rather not, do not. Take one more deep breath. We're going to imagine a beautiful golden light above our head, gently coming down. It's like golden honey soaking down our body. It's soaking up anything and everything that no longer serves us. The need to please, the need to be compliant. Worrying about what other people think above our own self-truth. And this honey is gently going down your arms, down your lower body, all the way down. One more deep breath. This is making space and room for joy and love and self-trust and pleasure. I want you to go back to that electric panel, and I want you to check where that meter is now. I want you to see where it's changed to, what it feels like when you look at it. And I want you to look over to the right, and there's another meter, the capacity for pleasure. And just take gentle note of it. Allow for that to increase. And feel that in your body. All right, when you're ready, you can close that electrical panel and bring your awareness back to the rest of your body. Nice deep breath. Wiggle your fingers and toes when you're ready, and open your eyes when you're complete. Woo! That was cool. What did everybody get? So that's something you can check on. I have tons of EP transmissions too that you can watch and utilize. If you're an EP practitioner, you can utilize that on your own. If you're not and you're interested in individual sessions, all of my people who are either in training or are practitioners offer sessions. And the expansion principle is open for enrollment for November. Yee! So if you're interested in doing that, if you've been thinking about it, we have a couple of bonuses if you start within the next little bit, if you enroll early. You loved that one in the discussion today. So good, Jody. I'm so glad. Oh, I feel good. Oh. Okay, I love you. Yeah, I'm not surprised that you had two either. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. Yep. So that's interesting, Sarah. So the bullshit meter is how available we are for bullshit. So I'd be interested in that it went up after the EP transmission. I'm glad. Pleasure meter was much higher. You're so welcome. Yay. Kathy's so cute. EP is the most amazing thing I've done for myself. So it's so funny because, you know, Kathy's on almost all the live streams and obviously is a member of my family. But her experience with EP is hers, right? It's that of she went through training just like everybody else. She did everything just like everyone else who becomes a practitioner has done. And so when she talks about these things, it really is not, oh, I love Alexis, it's cool. It's like, it really has been incredibly instrumental in her life. You're so cute. And Sarah's like, maybe I got confused in my head. That's okay. You can check it again. It's really about how we feel too. It's about changing that feeling. And so notice in your lives, I want you to notice today and tomorrow, like what things you maybe change, maybe things that you notice, and then share them in here. I think that's all I got. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I've been trying to talk about it. We have the Illumination. So Illumination is EP version of DNA activation, except it includes a holographic blueprint template individual to you. It's really amazing and cool how it creates the structure to support your spiritual growth individually. And that's something, the regular price of that is going to be $11.11, and right now it's $222 for another 4 spots, and then it goes up to $444. If you enroll in EP, you get that included. So you'll receive that before becoming a practitioner, as we've noticed that it's a good stepping stone for it. And that's it. I love you. Thanks for hanging out with me. I kind of like these morning times. And I'll see you later. Bye.